Hey guys, I am here and I'm so excited because I have very few notes about today's book. I haven't liked a book like this maybe ever. Today's book is Lady Tremaine by Rachel Hochhauser. This is a Reese's book club pick. That's not why I chose it, because frankly, I don't do book talk and I don't read books that are like Oprah's book club, Reese's book club, because they don't tend to be up my alley. So actually when I did see that it was a Reese's book club pick, I was like, meh. However, girl loves a fairy tale retelling, so I decided to take a chance. And it took a long time for me to get this book because it was so popular and I loved it. The narrator did a great job. The one note that I sort of had or have, it got resolved pretty quickly, was obviously as a retelling, this was her take on the stepmother's point of view. And the one thing that was established early on is that Ellen, or Cinderella, was a ne'er-do-well. She was not a protagonist, and I was wishing that maybe we didn't have it so much as she's obviously not pulling her weight, but it's more of a misunderstanding kind of situation. And maybe in the end, you could chalk it up to a misunderstanding situation. But once we got into the why behind Ellen, I no longer cared that she wasn't the victim. I didn't like Ellen. And then in the end, I loved how everything got handled and resolved. A lot of reviews that you read will say, once you get to that halfway point, this book is no longer what we know. It is purely Hochhauser's imagination. It was not a problem for me. I did see a couple of reviews that said it started slow, and I would agree. It probably wasn't until about that 25% mark where I started getting invested. And I think it's just because when you go into a retelling, you already have a preconceived idea as to what should be going on. And then when an author takes it in such an opposite direction, without giving you a whole context behind the characters and the choices, it can just be slow. But I tell you, give it a couple chapters, you will be sucked into. I've not seen a single negative review. Anywho, obviously, Lady Tremaine is a fairy tale retelling of Cinderella from the stepmother's perspective. And if you are a female empowerment kind of woman, this book will be for you. I see its comp is like Circe meets Bridgerton. I have not read Bridgerton. I have not seen Bridgerton, although recently I have seen that people are unhappy as to some of the choices that are being made for Bridgerton. And Circe, I had never planned on reading Circe, but after liking this book, I was like, let's put that on the TBR. But we open in a couple different ways. We open with Lady Tremaine almost in that iconic dark room. Although there is no like eyes in the night with the cat, it is, she's waking up and she has a falcon named Lucy, and she's going to take Lucy out to go hunt. She has two daughters, Matilda and Rosamond, and I believe it's Matilda. Yes, Matilda is awake and is like, hey, what about me? When is it going to be my turn? When am I going to learn? She's like, not today, Junior. She goes off, and you can tell they have fallen upon hard times for the mere fact that she is trying to hunt and gather their food. But we're given this kind of landscape of their land. And it is saying, it's kind of like you have a piece of paper, but a piece of paper in the actual land, two different things. But what we do know is after the river is royal land. You know where I need to hunt, because for my falcon to be most effective, I need wide open spaces. I need that royal land. So you see her crossing over that river, poaching a rabbit, and now she's on her way back and she sees a royal carriage and she's like, ruh-roh. She's trying to hurry back to her estate, which is Bramley Hall, and she stumbles across this stranger in the woods, and she's like, first off, I hope he never figures out who I am. Second, I hope he doesn't realize that I was just poaching. She's like, see you later, alligator. She gets to Bramley Hall just in time to intercept the royal messenger who is going around the land announcing the prince's birthday ball. The problem here is that, only Ellen is invited. She's like, that's a problem because my girls need to go. They need to meet men so that they can have a good future. So this is where we're setting up. Everything else up until that 25% mark is giving backstory. And this is where we learn, because we don't know what Bramley Hall is. We don't know who she got it from. Because obviously she has whoever was Matilda and Rosamond's father, and then she has Ellen's father. And what we're learning from her backstory is that she was the daughter of a brewer. And in this small town, her position, obviously she wasn't royal, but she was physically in close enough proximity to nobility that she could have a chance with the nobility, but also because there weren't a whole lot of options, and her status kind of placed her at a level where she could marry nobility to a certain extent. And this is where we are introduced to Henry. Henry is a Tremaine. The Tremaines are the local nobility. They are the ones who own the land. They are falconers, and we see her connect with him over falconry because she grew up without a mother. She grew up without female influences. At some point, her dad does bring in like a tutor of sorts who teaches her all of the things she needs to know to be a proper lady, and this woman's name is Agatha. And Lady Tremaine hears Agatha in her head whenever she's in certain situations. She's like, I know exactly what Agatha would tell me to do. She has kind of these warring personality, but she's starting to fall for Henry, and he's like the third son. He doesn't have as much pressure on him when it comes to the kind of woman that he marries. One summer, I believe she's 16 or 17, he pops up with the blonde. And she's like, I wonder who that blonde is. And we're all like, is Henry Ellen's father? And this beautiful blonde is Ellen's mother. And now we're going to see this love triangle. We're going to see how, Lady Tremaine, her name is Etheldreda. Everybody just calls her Ethel. So sorry about that. So now are we going to see this love triangle between like Ethel and Sigrid, the blonde, and Henry? Are we going to see how Ethel pines from afar? Sigrid, very snooty. She's not loving having to spend the summer here, but she likes Henry. He's a catch. I don't know in what regard, because she has bragged about how she's had 6 failed marriage proposals, and so I don't really know what it is about Henry. Of his brothers, like obviously she would prefer the first, but you know what, he's not the greatest catch, so you know what, I'll settle for Henry because he's like hot or something. Ethel, not blown away by Sigrid. Sigrid likes to remind her of her place and how she is not worthy of Henry, so they kind of have this summer of rivalry. We don't know where Henry stands on any of this. And then one day, Ethel says, look, all right, I got to figure out how to get Henry to see that this girl, not worth his time. Let me figure out how to put her in a situation that doesn't show her in her greatest light. Well, that doesn't really work out, but what ends up happening is they go horseback riding. They're clipping and clopping, and Ethel and Sigrid are having kind of the war of the words. I love this book so much. Because you know that in this time and place, they're not actually saying what they mean, so you have to read between the lines. But it has been made very clear that they are rivals for his affection. And Ethel up ahead sees a hornet's nest. Hornet's nest in the road. She's like, So she steers her horse around this hornet's nest, but Sigrid walks right into it. And it turns into a fiasco where she falls off the horse falls on her, crushes her hand. So there's this whole thing about the hand. We don't know exactly where it ends up, but we do know that that was not what Ethel had planned, and she felt really bad about it. She confesses to Henry, and Henry says, like there ever was a choice, and he has chosen Ethel. So Sigrid, for many reasons, largely because there's not adequate medical attention in this quaint little town, she leaves to get her hand taken care of and to recover. And then she ends up marrying the king because her sister marries his cousin or something. So she meets the future king at her sister's wedding. So Ethel is thinking, wow, this is great. She wins, I win, and then she eventually gets a letter from Ethel being like, yeah, well, it might seem great and I might like have totally won the game, but this isn't over. And it becomes apparent that it's not over because the Tremaines soon lose their status. You know, they lose some of their trade ways, like all kinds of stuff is taken from them. And this is obviously Sigrid's influence because Henry marries Ethel. And his family doesn't like Ethel. She's not the one they would have chosen, but they have a great marriage. She gets pregnant with Matilda, and it is not an easy pregnancy. It is not an easy birth. A year to the date, she gives birth to Rosamond, and it is night and day in terms of pregnancies and births. Odd number of years down the road, Henry ends up dying, and his dad stops by and he's like, so the thing is, I don't have to take care of you. And we don't have a whole lot of money anymore anyways. So I have promised your daughters in marriage to these other guys. And yeah, we're going to ship them out in like a week. So she's like, oh dear, what am I going to do? I'm going to remarry. She goes to a party. She meets Lord Bramley. He's the only person anywhere near her age. And she's like, look, I've got 2 kids. You've got a kid. Let's just make this happen. He's no catch. She's not attracted to him. He has no backbone. He can't make a decision to save his life. But she's like, you know what? I can handle this. Like, we can make this work. She gets to his estate and things are really great at first. He's got the money. They're taken care of. They have warm beds. They have food on their plates. But Ellen's weird. My words. Ellen won't give them the time of day. She will not even acknowledge Ethel's presence. And she has this weird obsession / fascination with her mother. Her father has this obsession. Like, he's obviously not over his dead wife. But one day, Ethel has had enough. I think it's maybe 6 months to a year after they've been married, and she's like, can we please take her picture off the wall? Lord Bramley gets up on the ladder and he's taking the picture off when the ladder kind of wobbles, so he's unwilling to let go of this picture. So instead of choosing one or the other, he falls, he hits his head, he ends up dying. He leaves them in debt. The only money that he has left is for Ellen and for her dowry. So they couldn't touch it if they wanted to. Now Ethel is trying to do whatever she can to save her family. And she's raised in this time period where marriage is so important. Women cannot survive without men, and you need your status. So she's trying to cover up the fact that they lost everything and that they have nothing. So she's trying to keep up appearances. The only thing that Bramley Hall really has going for it is apples. By this point in the novel, in this present time, they don't have anything really. She sold everything she could. There are some things up in the attic, some things of hers, some things of Lord Bramley's first wife. She has a cameo necklace of her mother that she has not sold yet. But yeah, she's like, I don't know what to do. Well, her daughters are like, we want to go to the ball. So she says, all right, so I'm just going to go see the queen. They're like, you know the queen? And she's like, yeah, we've got past. But before all of this, she has approached Ellen and she's like, look, here's the thing. You got to make your own dress. And Ellen refuses to do anything. And her main crux is this little book that used to be her mother's. It's like a book of virtue that is supposed to prepare a lady to be a lady. Ellen's whole thing is, well, why do I need to do it now? Because I will have people to do it for me later. So I need to know what kind of lady I need to be for my future marriage. Ethel is trying to get Ellen to participate. This is where you see that bitterness towards Cinderella from the stepmother and stepsister, because they are working their butts off to keep this place afloat. They're working their butts off just to have food on the table, and Ellen does nothing. There are two servants who stayed on, Alice and Gwendolyn. They stay on without pay, but they have stayed on because they're a couple, and that kind of coupling is not approved in this day and age. If they really want to live their life the way that they want to live it, this is the best situation for them. I did get frustrated with them because they are obviously tied to Ellen. What I wanted was to see them have the same complaints about her as Ethel, Matilda, and Rosamond. But what we get, it's that, well, she's the daughter of our first mistress. We just need to pander to her every whim. Even though we're acknowledging she doesn't carry her own weight in this family. So I wanted to see them be like, you know, we love you, but we also need you to help out. Like, we are frustrated too that you are not held to the same standard as everybody else, not out of effort, but out of your own choice. Because they're very headstrong women. They had no problem speaking their minds, yet they excuse all of Ellen's behaviors. And I thought it was out of character for them. We have all of this, and Ethel says, I'm gonna go see Sigrid. So she goes to see Sigrid, and she notices a portrait of the family and how, what is it? I think like the daughter Hema, I think looks just like it. The Hema either looks just like Sigrid or her father, and then the brother Simeon is the reverse. She sits down with Sigrid, and, you know, Sigrid is just like, this is the moment she's been waiting for. She basically is making Ethel grovel. We learn that she lost one of her fingers, so she always wears gloves, and now this is why it's a trend in the city. Sigrid is truly a wonderful antagonist. I absolutely adore her. You hate to love her. Like, she's not a likable person, but she is just masterful in playing the game, right? So Tremaine is able to get her daughters put on the list. Like, all Sigrid really wanted was Ethel to come to her and beg her to put her daughters on the list. Before Ethel leaves, one of Sigrid's counselors comes in. And you know who that is? It's the man from the woods. And Ethel's like, oh no. And this guy's name is Otto. And from the get-go, we don't know if we need to like Otto or not. He seems to be an antagonist, like he's in Sigrid's pocket. He's kind of Simeon's caretaker. She gets home and the girls are super excited, and she's like, well, now we gotta figure out how we're gonna afford all of this. So she sells some more stuff. This merchant named Musa comes along. She ends up selling him the necklace with her mother's profile on it. He is telling her, look, lady, you have some darn good apple cider. You need to sell this apple cider. And while they do sell their apples, for some reason, she just can't lower herself to that level of selling their cider. She does create an instant to get her girls noticed by Simeon. She figures out when the royal hunting party is going to go out. She gathers some things together and she stages it to look like they had gone out to enjoy a picnic and paint, and then the horse got spooked and now their buggy is in a ditch. Well, obviously Otto sees through all of this, but it has the intended effect. Like, it actually does more than she'd expected it to do. So Simeon's like, let me hang out with you on your blanket here and blah, 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 blah. So the next thing she knows is, so in this attempt to stage, she had broken the wheel of her carriage. So he has the wheel repaired, and when the carriage is brought back, he also sends along this portrait of apples, which, I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of metaphors in here. And I gotta say, it was kind of like Harry Potter, where you knew it was there, but you could still enjoy the story of it all. And then eventually I will go back and I'll dive into the writing of it all. But she then is like, well, I need to buy more materials. So she sells the frame to that portrait as well. The one thing that she has told Ellen is, look, I'm going to front the costs for all this material, but you need to pay me back. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to sweep up the ashes and sell the ashes. Ellen can't seem to handle that. Like, she's just incapable of it because it's beneath her. She also doesn't know how to sew. We are periodically getting updates on how these dresses are turning out. She's like, yeah, not really as far along as I should be. And then she kind of says, I thought, because Matilda is really, I think it's I don't know, maybe it's Rosamond. One of them is really good with a needle and thread. She's like, well, I mean, why can't she do it for me? And Ethel's like, because she's making her own dress. I really liked Ethel. The day of the ball arrives and Ellen comes down the stairs and her dress is a hot mess express. Ethel has also commanded Alice and Wenthelin, you cannot help her. So actually, I'm fully expecting those two to have done all the work, but they didn't. So there's this whole thing of, like, why didn't you tell us you need this much help? And Ellen's like, well, you made me do the ashes and this and that and the other. And they're like, if we'd known how much work needed to be done, we would have figured it out. And I'm like, no, we're not figuring anything out. Ellen needs to learn how to take care of herself. They leave without Ellen. They're having a great time. Rosamond and Simeon are dancing. Ethel dances with Otto. And then Ethel goes out to get some air. And she sees this carriage pull up. And I can't remember which one took place first. I think actually what happened first is she hears Sigrid and Otto talking. And they're talking about the girls. Otto point blank says that Ethel's girls are not suitable. And so now Ethel's, she's up in her airs. And then this carriage comes up. And she's like, are you freaking kidding me? It is Ellen. So Musa has decorated his horse and buggy or whatever he drives around to, be all impressive. And then when Ellen steps out, and I just about lost it. And I couldn't believe Ethel didn't lose it. Ellen had gone into the attic and had taken Ethel's wedding dress, the one she had slaved over for her marriage to Henry. So this is that notorious blue-white dress that we see in all of the Cinderella depictions. And Ethel's like, she's wearing my dress. She has destroyed my dress. She has taken off the sleeves. She has changed the hem. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, how awful of Ellen. I stopped being sympathetic towards her when I learned, like, when Ethel got to the house and Ellen treated her like she didn't even exist. When we learned how they all came to be, and it was nothing of Ethel's own making, it was all Ellen who caused the rift. I was like, So yeah, I'm just like, and you do nothing around the house and you blame it on everybody else. You're just too pious because of the stupid book of virtues. So yeah, she comes, and who do you think Simeon spends the rest of the night with? Ellen. Next day, Simeon appears at their house. Like, apparently he didn't even sleep that night. He just wanted to come and see her. So they go on a walk through the orchard, and the next thing you know, they're engaged. Like, literally, Otto and Ethel lose sight of them, and when they find them, they're engaged. So things are happening at a very fast clip. Like, the wedding is going to happen in 3 weeks. Ethel's like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I mean, okay. Rosamond is just absolutely devastated. But throughout all of this, Ethel is just trying to do what's best for her daughter. She's just trying to do the best she can. And I feel for her so bad, which is why when later on in the novel, her daughter's going to turn on her, I'm like, it's only because I'm 40 and I totally understand Ethel's side. I think if I were 20, I would understand her daughter's sides. And the whole thing with how Ellen showed up at the ball, basically everybody enabled her. She said, oh, I didn't know that was your wedding dress because your wedding dress was green. Because the one that Ethel had worn when she married Lord Bramley was green. And I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I think Ellen, she didn't care. She wanted what she wanted. The maids helped. Musa helped. And I just needed a come to Jesus moment with these maids. I guess that's a second note where I felt like they were a little underdeveloped with the way that they were presented. I expected a little bit more support from them in some kind of way, and I didn't get it so much. But I wanted Ethel to be like, look, ladies, why did you go against my wishes, and where are we with all of this? I needed some explanation from them, because I think she did ask them why they helped, and they're like, because she needed to go to the ball too, you just left her. Well, of course I left her. She didn't do her work. She didn't make sure she was ready. We all did our own work, and she did not make sure that she was ready for this ball. So the more that we see Simeon, and the more we see Otto and how protective he is of Simeon, and how Simeon is kind of in this golden cage, and it's like kind of interesting how concerned Otto is about Simeon being alone with Ellen. A little bit of foreshadowing there, guys, just in case you weren't picking up on this. As all of this is happening, the roof of the west wing of Bramley Hall caves in, and Ethel's like, I don't even know what's going to happen. But Ellen announces that Simeon is going to be coming back. And so they're trying to prepare for this while their home is falling apart. She's trying to figure out how to put the best foot forward, and nobody know what's happening. So she sends, Alice Wendell, and she sends them out. She's like, look, can you see if you can get some more people to come and help us? So they come back with this one woman, and her name is Morwen. Morwen used to work at the palace, and Morwen is just adamant. She's like, I'm a lady's maid. I don't do any of this other stuff. And then when she learns that Simeon's going to be there, she's like, I will do whatever you want, but I will not be anywhere near him. So Simeon comes, things happen. Otto discovers the damage in the west wing, and then he's like, well, we are getting out of here because this could cause an entire cave-in, and I don't want to risk Simeon's life, so we're getting out of here. So Ethel sits Morwen down. She's like, talk to me, girl. Morwen reveals that Hema is pregnant. This is why the wedding needs to happen so quickly, because they want to pass this baby off as Ellen's. Ethel is like, I'm going to the palace. I'm going to go talk to Hema. And you know what? I'm also kind of going to tell Sigrid I don't want this wedding to happen. She finds Hema. And this is the big revelation. Simeon raped Hema. Simeon rapes a lot of women. Simeon is a monster. Hema actually looks a lot like Ellen. So now we know why Matilda and Rosamond were not acceptable, because there's no way they could pass this baby off as being one of theirs. Now Ethel's even more determined to call off this wedding because she does not want to put Ellen in that situation. And one of the phrases, one of the sentences that really stuck with me, because after Hema reveals what happened, Ethel goes, but you're his sister. And she says, but I was a woman first, sister second. This is also where Ethel realizes that family portrait was very deceptive. And that I kind of wish we'd had a little bit more of this. And the king is out of the picture the entire time. He's traveling, he's doing whatever. He's not even supposed to be back till the wedding. And these are all things that are kind of putting Ethel on edge, because she's like, I just don't understand. Wouldn't you want to prove this girl and blah, blah, blah. But that's when I was like, something about the fact that they needed to misrepresent Hema went straight over my head. So on my second read, I'll dive more into that. Ethel confronts Sigrid about this whole situation. At some point during this, Simeon gets out of there. He goes and he kidnaps Ellen. So on her way out, Ethel is talking to Otto, and he's like, you confronted the queen with all of this? And she's like, well, why not? He's freaking out. So she has a couple of back and forth moments because her daughters have guilt tripped her about how she is just trying to put on this front and on these airs, and how she needs to protect Ellen and blah, blah, blah. I don't even know. She's come and gone from this palace quite a bit. But now Otto's like, uh-oh. Like, we gotta go find her. We've seen like hints at a romance, and we see a little bit more of that here. But this is where we also get backstory on him and how he had also lost his family, and this is how he got brought into the royal service, and how he just wanted to make things better, but he does not condone the behaviors that are going on. They do find Ellen and Simeon. They're able to rescue her. Somehow they're able to get away from him, but then that night, so Otto then goes back to the palace. And that night, Simeon shows up at Bramley Hall, and he is just an absolute monster. So he and Ethel hash it out. She, before all of this, had been hunting with Lucy. And there, Lucy is a symbol for stuff too. And because of going back and forth to the palace, Ethel hadn't fed Lucy. So then when she goes to do so, Lucy is in a snit and flies away, but the problem is she's still in all of her gear. So Ethel's worried about her because she could get caught on stuff, and she could die because of that. So Lucy comes to the rescue. Ethel leads him up to the West Wing. This is all kind of Beauty and the Beast-ish too. Lucy flies into the rescue, and she's tearing him apart. He takes her, throws her against the wall and kills her. And in one of the earliest reviews that I found, this one reviewer was like, I can't believe he killed her. I was expecting something far more traumatic. And maybe because I was a little, I don't know, because I didn't want to read in, I just wanted to enjoy the story rather than soak in the theme and the symbols and the metaphors and the more literary side of the writing. I didn't form a connection with Lucy. I actually didn't really care for Lucy too much. I think she was a little bit annoying. And I was like, so this is what we're incensed about? But he kills Lucy, and then he is going back to strangling Ethel when Ellen appears. Ellen hits him upside the head with a piece of debris and ends up killing him. So now they're like, well, what are we gonna do? They get rid of all the evidence, they dismantle his carriage, they burn everything, and then they take him and they bury him just on the other side of the river from the beginning of the book. So he's technically buried on royal land, which comes into play later because then the queen is trying to figure out where he is, and every house is getting searched, but Ethel's like, she would never think to search royal land. Oh, genius. They have all of this going on. That morning, they have just finished burying Simeon, and Sigrid arrives, and she's like, why are you all muddy? Why is there a fire? And she's like, well, I've been working all morning, and, we had a cave in our roof, so we're just burning the debris. And she has another standoff with Sigrid, and she kind of lets it be known, like, you don't scare me, and what will be will be. From here, we go into our epilogue. Ellen also tosses that book of virtue into the fire, and we see in the epilogue that they are now a unit. And this whole thing, like, Ethel just she has said to Ellen on multiple occasions, like, your family was here, you had an option here. And Ellen just would reject that. She would resist this idea that these people were a ready-made family for her. And then obviously at the end, after her experience with Simeon, she sees the light. So Ethel is teaching all three girls how to falcon. They are now selling cider, and they passed off Hemma's baby as Sigrid's, which I find very interesting, considering that baby was born a full-blood sibling. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. And it doesn't really matter, we'll never figure it out. Such a good book. Such a good book. I probably didn't even do it justice, but I'm trying not to be too long. So, and there we go. Also, Otto has proposed to Ethel multiple times, and it's not that she doesn't love him, but going back to this idea of you need a man, she's like, I don't want to be bound to a man. So he has moved in with them. He has quit his service at the palace, and they're saving up for a new roof. The end.